For the promotion and protection of the rights of cultural, religious and linguistic communities, working towards a system that will make sure that no religious leader operates without a license. That's our focus today. Now, this comes after the latest complaints about a charismatic pastor who's accused of abusing his position within the church. But how much of a difference will this make? And is it not too late already? Well, we're joined in studio by the Deputy Chairperson of the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, the CRL as it's known. A very good morning to Professor David Musoma. Very good morning to you.
And good morning to you.
Professor, just give us an idea, this framework that's been in the wings to regulate what is happening in the faith sector in South Africa, how far are we down the road and what is that process next?
We started the process of investigating what was then called the commercialization of religion and the abuse of people's belief system. And in our investigation, we have found that there is a need to self-regulate religious institutions. To that end, we have worked on a report which we consulted broadly with the religious institutions, religious leaders and communities. And the report is now final. It will be submitted to Parliament on the 4th of June. For 2 days we'll be in Parliament, and we hope that after that we are going to be embarking on a process of amending the Act of the CRL. Some of the elements in the CRL mandates us, for example, to have a database. And database you can only have when you register people. So there is a provision already in the Act. We believe that registration of churches or religious institutions is a very important. It's a key to know how many religious institutions do we have in a country, where do they come from, where do they practice, and so forth and so forth. And we believe that that is the first start. But the second start is that we need to check who the qualifications. Yeah. Some go through ordination or whatever form of validation in terms of the profession in which they are. This will actually assist us to know. We are also coming up with a process to assist religious institutions to comply. For example, on matters of governance, on matters of tax, on matters of institutional management itself, where religious institutions are facilitated to have, for example, committees that run their organizations efficiently, and to that end, accountability, transparency. Those are the elements we feel are critical to this end.
Let's talk about spiritual manipulation now, and let's talk about South Africa being almost a fertile ground for the kind of spiritual manipulation that we see. Why is that?
We've been very fortunate that in February we assembled a number of experts from hypnotists, neuroscientists, psychologists, and so forth and so forth. They were able to reveal to us something we did not know. The use of the hypnosis, for example, as a manipulative process for this spiritual activity. And we are very, very sad because that is used as a way of spiritual empowerment, demonstrating that they prowess, they have the power, spiritual endowment, which in fact is not the case. It's merely a facade. Behind it lies this spiritual manipulation. And the danger to that is that it hypnotizes people, even to give their means of sustenance, living, what you call resources, to these particular individuals. We know of an institution in the Eastern Cape where the congregants are expected to sell their properties, to withdraw their monies, and bring to this commune. And not even to send their children to school, because school is identified to be the place of the devil. So you don't have to be knowledgeable.
Wow.
So there are children who are almost 18, 21 years old. They have never been to school as a result of this spiritual manipulation.
Is it out of hand here in South Africa?
I should think so. It's out of hand. In fact, what we have now uncovered, it's merely a tip of an iceberg. If these are going to be aggregated, we may find that the terrain is tainted beyond measure.
I want to ask you about, I spoke to the Nigerian Pastors Association a little bit earlier, and of course they have a separate entity that sits maybe outside the work that you do. Is it not time for all of these to be put in one place?
I don't think so. What we seek to do in terms of self-regulation, we want to create umbrella bodies, that no individual pastor should be a standalone. He or she should belong to a fold. And the fold should be responsible for both spiritual nurturing, code of conduct, in making sure that the pastors comply in terms of the umbrella arrangement.
Yeah.
So that if somebody is out of 10, then the umbrella body takes a responsibility. If the umbrella body believes that this one is no longer fit to practice as a pastor, whatever the case may be, then they will report to CRL. CRL will then strike this individual from the role. And also that pastors must be vetted. Some of them may be pedophiles.
That's
and
correct.
they are exposed to dealing with children and women and things like that. So we need to know their history so that we can then safeguard our communities.
What about members of these congregations? What kind of recourse do you think members of a congregation should have? I say this because there's so much intimidation that goes with this kind of thing. We see enablers working with pastors to lure girls away, to intimidate members of the congregation. What kind of recourse or what kind of process must we give members of a church to follow in order to not be victimized if they have a complaint?
CRL is opened. We have a process of receiving complaints from individuals, from communities. And in some instances, we're able to hide the identity of the person and deal with the matter. And we know the extent of harassment, the extent of, the way in which pastors operate. Because we ourselves were threatened. I mean, they came with security guards holding guns at the CRL. So we know if that can be done to a CRL, which is a Chapter 9 institution, what happens to the individual? So you can see that it goes really right through the communities. They experience this type of situation.
What's the kind of red flag that stands out that these guys have in common that people should be on the lookout for? If they see something like this, they know, oops, there's a problem here.
They always promise you that you will have a better life. That if they pray for you, your situation will change. And that if the more you give, the more you get blessed.
Yeah.
In the African traditional religion, they tell you, if you take this particular medicine, it will make you rich.
Yeah.
Will send you something, and this person or this particular thing will add to your fortunes.
Yeah.
These are kinds of systems that they use. I know of a white woman who came to CRL. She was desperate to have a child. And she got to be hooked by these individuals. She ended up paying 240,000 rand for a child she does not have even today.
It's an all too...
This is the extent of the gravity of the problem we have in South Africa.
Yeah, it's a very familiar story and it's not getting any better. I thank you for joining us today. Professor David Musoma is the Deputy Chairperson of the CRL, and they are being tasked with the difficult task of dealing with this issue. Of course, we've been asked